You're sitting here right now, your heart racing the moment your phone screen lights up, wondering, will they finally reply? You've stayed up at night, scrolling through old messages, hunting for any hint that they still care, only to be met with silence. You feel your chest tighten, gripped by the fear that one day they'll walk away without warning. That sinking feeling leaves you unable to focus on work or even enjoy a quiet moment with family. But know this, you're not alone in this pain. Deep inside, a part of you craves safety and warmth, yet you're constantly left hanging, waiting in vain. At the first sign of trouble in a relationship, you panic. Did I do something wrong? Are they pulling away? Those questions spin relentlessly in your mind, wearing you down emotionally. You yearn for a concrete promise, a hug that feels secure, a clear declaration. I'm here, always by your side. Instead, you receive mixed signals, moments of affection followed by abrupt distance. It's this inconsistency that has imprinted itself on your psyche, turning you into an emotional detective, combing through every tiny gesture for clues. Pause for a moment. In this video, we're diving into the root of anxious attachment style, the reason you live in perpetual fear of abandonment. You'll discover how childhood experiences and repeated mixed messages have woven a web of beliefs that keeps you on edge. But more importantly, you'll learn why this attachment style is not a life sentence, and how you can gradually dismantle it to find true security, confidence, and lasting relationships. If you're ready to confront those deep-seated fears and learn to rebuild trust and self-soothe your emotions, stay with us and watch every second of this video. Only by understanding the root of your anxiety can you truly set yourself free and find peace in love. When it comes to attachment, there are 4 primary emotional shades each of us carries into our relationships: anxious, avoidant, fearful, and secure. Picture an infographic with 4 small icons representing each style: a heart trembling with anxiety, a figure turning its back, a pair of skeptical eyes behind glasses, and a smooth sphere standing unshakably firm. Each style embodies a unique lens through which we connect, behave, and most critically define our self-worth in the ever-shifting landscape of emotions. Anxious, the anxious attachment style, is like a smoldering ember beneath an icy exterior. It never fully extinguishes, only waiting to flare up the moment you encounter silence or a delayed text reply. You may find yourself anxiously scanning messaging apps for the seen indicator, then suddenly your pulse races when the disappears without a response. Meanwhile, avoidant individuals maintain a safe distance, using busyness or emotional aloofness to fend off intimacy, leaving their partners both yearning and unmoored. Fearful, the fearful attachment style, merges traits of both anxiety and avoidance, craving closeness, yet terrified of being hurt, oscillating between I need you and I need to run away. Finally, secure attachment is the ideal. Emotional stability, balanced giving and receiving of love, unafraid of solitude, yet not overly dependent on others. This video will go beyond dry definitions to guide you on an exploration of anxious attachment that force making your heart pound with fear at every interaction, yet also the lock you have the power to open yourself. Why does anxiety pervade every conversation, every text message, every small gesture? Because early in childhood, your developing brain learned a lesson. If I don't make enough noise or express myself strongly, no one will hear me. Whether intentional or not, those early experiences carved fractures in how you seek security. When others respond inconsistently, sometimes warm, sometimes distant, you become an expert at reading every move, scrambling to decode the mixed signals sent your way. The remarkable truth is that anxiety is not an unchangeable burden. Instead, it serves as a map pointing you toward growth. If you face it directly and understand its mechanisms and origins, you can learn to rebalance your beliefs, self-regulate your emotions, and slowly transform into a more secure version of yourself. In the next section, we will dissect why anxious attachment so easily erodes joy and unveil the first strategies to kick off your self-healing journey. Get ready, because this is the initial step to breaking free from the endless loop of seeking validation and discovering genuine peace of mind. As we delve into anxious attachment, it's crucial first to grasp the definition and hallmark signs that define this style. Picture a scenario all too familiar. You're eagerly awaiting a call from your partner, your heart racing as the phone rings, only to answer and hear voicemail. You immediately assume they must be avoiding you, questioning, did I do something wrong? Are they losing interest in me? These fleeting moments, though brief, trigger a cascade of conflicting emotions, disappointment, fear, anger, self-blame, and here, anxious attachment manifests as a mirror, reflecting all your pain and abandonment fears. Scientifically, anxious attachment arises from inconsistent caregiving experiences in early childhood. A child's developing brain learns that sometimes, when they need comfort or attention, a caregiver is readily present. But other times, when the child expresses need, the caregiver may be distracted, preoccupied, or unintentionally neglectful. Growing up in this uncertainty, the child becomes vigilant, always braced for potential rejection or abandonment. Individuals with anxious attachment typically exhibit the following signs. You can self-assess how many out of 10 apply to you. Fear of abandonment and expecting disappointment. Every delayed text or brief response triggers an anxious storm. Are they upset with me? Are they angry at me? Are they about to disappear from my life? Instead of calm reflection, negative assumptions take over, and you fear the relationship might abruptly end without warning. Constantly tuning in to fluctuating signals from the partner, you scrutinize every nuance, tone of voice in texts, the timing of seen without reply, and even emoji usage. From an exclamation mark to a snapshot of tea time, every detail becomes a clue to decode your partner's mood and feelings. Extremely high phone checking frequency. You check your phone hundreds of times a day to see if a new message has arrived. You might even wake up in the middle of the night, phone glowing in the darkness, sending one last good night text, and then lying there anxiously, waiting for a reply. Dependence on digital devices loops you deeper into anxiety. Each silent moment feels endlessly long. Discomfort when reassurance isn't immediate. For someone with anxious attachment, waiting even a few minutes can feel torturous. You crave instant emotional safety. Without it, you grow unsettled and may erupt in anger or tears. Intense, all or nothing emotions. You love and commit at levels far greater than most people. Every joy and sorrow fuels your efforts to nurture the relationship. But this intensity also makes you more vulnerable when challenges arise. Seeking constant validation, you frequently revisit old promises, anniversary playlists, or photos just to hear, "I'm still here," reassuring yourself that the bond remains intact. Comparing your relationship with others, seeing friends display public affection triggers insecurity. Why are they so happy? Why doesn't my partner show the same sweetness? Comparisons might offer solutions, but more often deepen self-doubt, difficulty trusting, and prone to jealousy. Whenever your partner spends time with friends or works late, you can't help but feel jealous. Fearing someone else holds enough importance to make them neglect you. Rushing to plan the future, after just a few weeks of dating, you outline living together, having children, buying a house, and attempt to solidify the relationship's seriousness. This approach stems from a need for safety. If the future is locked in, you worry less about abandonment, quick to feel discouraged and lose confidence. When conflict arises, you plunge into despair, questioning your worthiness and reliability, instead of focusing on solutions and open communication. These 10 signs are just the tip of the iceberg for anxious attachment. If you identify with more than half of them, you may be deeply influenced by this challenging yet transformable attachment style. Having clarified these initial traits and psychological mechanisms, we will move on to explore the early formative stage, ages 0-3, and how inconsistent experiences ingrained the anxiety pattern into a child's developing brain. From there, you'll gain deeper insight into the root issues and begin uncovering the keys to initiate your healing journey. Reflecting on our earliest years, we may not recall every detail, yet a child's developing brain meticulously records each experience of survival and bonding. Between ages 0-3, arguably the most formative period, a stable, consistent caregiving environment is crucial for building a basic trust that the world is safe and reliable. Imagine overlaying footage of a mother cradling her infant, soothing whispers, tender strokes on soft hair, moments of warmth fading instantly as she turns away to answer a work call or sorts through paperwork. In the blink of an eye, intimate reassurance dissolves into distraction or absence, sending waves of anxiety crashing through the child's psyche. According to John Bowlby's attachment theory, a child's brain wires itself to consistency in caregiver responses. When a baby cries and is promptly picked up, rocked, and comforted, that acts as a signal of safety. Even if scary things happen, someone will be there. Conversely, when crying is met with delay, distraction, or outright neglect, the baby learns to persistently question, will my need for comfort ever be met this time? This is not merely a demand for affection, but a survival instinct. Every newborn seeks to secure its caregiver's attention to stay alive. During the 0-3 age window, each inconsistent caregiving episode, warm presence one moment, abrupt absence the next, sends mixed signals that a fragile brain cannot decode properly. Infants cannot yet distinguish between their own emotions and those of their caregiver. They internalize the belief that if comfort doesn't arrive, it must be their fault. I didn't cry loud enough. I didn't signal clearly. From this confusion springs a defensive strategy. Children learn to amplify their cries and angst to guarantee they will be heard. This adaptation can manifest at varying intensities. Some infants display plaintive sobs and pitiful looks that elicit an instant, devoted response. Others, after repeated delays, escalate to furious screaming, flailing limbs, and rigid tension, dramatic measures ensuring adult intervention. Although not chosen rationally, these behaviors function as remarkable survival tools, helping children secure care in the face of potential abandonment. However, when such amplification becomes habitual, a child's brain gradually learns. Only when I'm in extreme distress do I get comfort. Gentle cries no longer suffice. Only the loudest signals will cut through the caregiver's inattention. In effect, the child's nervous system is rewired to expect abandonment, unless emotional expressions are magnified to alarming degrees. Repeated experiences of unpredictability carve deep grooves in the young attachment system. Physiologically, hunger pangs or physical discomfort combined with emotional neglect activate the amygdala, the brain's alarm center, keeping the child in a state of perpetual alert. Under this chronic stress, a belief system crystallizes. I cannot trust consistency. My only option is to amplify emotions to get needs met. Yet this early period also presents the greatest window of opportunity for intervention. Before anxious attachment patterns harden, consistent, responsive, caregiving meeting needs promptly, gently, but persistently can reprogram the immature brain. Every reassuring action, whether picking the child up, offering soothing words, or even a calm, welcoming gaze, collectively serves as therapeutic reinforcement, patching over fissures of doubt and insecurity. Having understood how erratic early experiences laid the groundwork for anxious attachment, we now move on to explore the mechanism of emotional amplification, why, in adulthood, anxiously attached individuals oscillate between vulnerability and anger, mirroring the very strategies they learned to survive their childhoods. Building on the neural imprints formed in early childhood, we now explore the mechanism of emotional amplification, an unconscious survival strategy anxiously attached children develop to capture their caregiver's attention. Insert an animation displaying a chart with two primary curves: vulnerability, represented by tears and fragile gestures, and anger, shown through tantrums and furious expressions. Notice how these curves intersect and rise when a child learns that only intense emotional displays trigger caregiving responses. This cycle of mixed signals, sometimes comfort, sometimes neglect, teaches the brain that to be soothed, one must either cry out or rage loudly. Initially, emotional amplification is rooted in a self-preservation instinct. When infants cry loudly, caregivers instinctively pick them up, rock them, or pause other activities to console them. This positive reinforcement for vulnerability signals to the child that visibility ensures survival. However, with an immature ability to self-regulate. A child repeatedly exposed to inconsistent care, warm embraces at times, abrupt absences at others, feels compelled to intensify emotional expressions continually. Gentle tears no longer suffice. If they fail to elicit comfort, the child escalates to anger, shouting, flailing, clenching fists to demand attention. This process is not a one-off event, but a recurring pattern that becomes an automatic response. As these children transition to adulthood, the residual neural wiring persists. At the first sign of distance from a partner, they might lapse into vulnerability, tearful phone calls, or flood of pleas, or swing to anger, yelling, accusations, harsh words just to pull their partner back. The oscillation between vulnerability and anger creates a torrent of intense emotions, yet also produces mixed signals, leaving partners confused and often eliciting further silence and misunderstanding. Imagine a late-night chat. You start with vulnerability. "Could you call me? I'm really anxious." And when no reply comes, you switch to anger. "Why don't you want to spend time with me anymore?" Such rapid emotional shifts confuse the other person, who might withdraw further. Over time, your brain learns. Only a fierce outburst will break the silence. Thus, the mind pairs emotional extremes with attention. Mild expressions go unheard. Loud ones guarantee a response. Emotional amplification results in two key outcomes. First, you exist in a state of constant unease, doubting that calm, gentle reassurance is sufficient. A simple "I'm here" feels inadequate. You crave a larger emotional dose. Second, it fosters an exhausting cycle with your partner. You ramp up the intensity. They feel under siege, react defensively. Then, when you quiet down, they retreat, perpetuating your need to escalate once more. However, awareness of this mechanism is the first step toward breaking the cycle. Once you recognize that tears or tantrums aren't the sole triggers for attention, you can experiment with direct, clear, emotional requests. Instead of waiting for a storm, you might say calmly, "I need to hear that you're still here for me," in a composed, confident tone. This approach builds the critical skill of self-regulation, soothing yourself without relying entirely on another's reaction. Having dissected how emotions become amplified and mixed signals emerge, we will examine the influence of insecure parents, where similar patterns perpetuate the anxious attachment chain across generations, creating a loop that demands intentional intervention to break. Continuing our exploration, let's hear the story of a father named Michael, once the epitome of a well-behaved son, yet raised by parents who didn't know how to handle their own shame and anger. As a child, whenever Michael cried after a fall or accidentally broke a toy, his mother would avert her gaze, flush with embarrassment, then hurriedly return to household chores, leaving Michael alone in the silence. His father, bearing the weight of the family's responsibilities, had learned from his own parents that showing vulnerability was shameful. Thus, whenever Michael sobbed, his father would mutter, "It's okay," then quietly withdraw. Michael couldn't distinguish between his own feelings and his parents' unspoken shame or disappointment. To a young child, all emotions blend together, teaching Michael to suppress sadness that deserved to be shared. Insecure parents, whether anxious or avoidant, tend to bury their emotions. They respond to their child's vulnerability or anger with shame because they lack the tools to process those feelings themselves. Children, still unable to separate self from others, become entangled in their parents' emotional maze, unable to tell where their own pain ends and their parents' repression begins. As a result, they internalize the belief that expressing emotions is dangerous and blameworthy. Moving to adult consequences, the co-regulation versus self-regulation chart to clarify the consequences of anxious attachment in adulthood. On the vertical axis is the level of internal calm. The horizontal axis represents time or triggering situations. The co-regulation curve illustrates that, under stress, anxious individuals feel soothed and at ease only when someone else instantly empathizes and supports them. A word of reassurance, a gesture, or a hug can quickly calm their panic. Conversely, the self-regulation curve represents the ability to manage emotions independently. Practices like deep breathing, journaling, or meditation without external intervention. For anxiously attached adults, the co-regulation curve spikes dramatically. Any lack of immediate feedback causes their internal calm to plummet, leading to confusion, anger outbursts, or deep distress. Meanwhile, the self-regulation curve remains nearly flat, indicating they lack skills to self-soothe when alone. This imbalance explains why they often chase avoidant partners, because avoidant partners fail to provide sufficient co-regulation, causing the anxious individual's internal calm to continually decline. Understanding this chart is the first step toward change. The goal is to elevate the self-regulation curve, reducing dependence on co-regulation. As self-regulation strengthens, anxiously attached individuals can wait for their partner's response without spiraling into panic, fostering a more balanced relationship where they care for themselves while remaining ready to support others when needed. Having unveiled the deep impact of insecure parenting and its direct repercussions in adulthood, we now move to the path to healing specific steps for anxiously attached individuals to identify their patterns, develop self-regulation, and gradually transform into a secure attachment style, building truly lasting relationships and genuine trust in themselves and others. Having navigated the roots of anxious attachment from inconsistent early experiences and the mechanism of emotional amplification to the impact of insecure parenting and adult consequences, we now embark on the path to healing. Imagine a forward arrow icon here, symbolizing the positive progress ahead. Good news. Anxious attachment is not a life sentence. Identify. The first step is to face your patterns head-on. Spend a few minutes each day noting when anxiety spikes. When do you compulsively check your phone? When does your heart tighten at silence? Record specific situations, accompanying feelings, and your reactions. This practice helps you distinguish between actual events and the invisible fears magnified in your mind. Self-regulate. Next, learn the skill of sitting with your emotions instead of amplifying them. Try mindfulness meditation, observing your breath whenever panic arises, or journaling. Write down your thoughts and feelings without labeling them good or bad. Practice daily for at least 5-10 minutes to build your ability to steady your heartbeat and calm your mind. Though challenging at first, you will gradually become less dependent on external validation to regain equilibrium. Seek support. Learn to open up and tap into external resources. A therapist specializing in attachment-based therapies, or a small support group or personal growth workshops. By sharing your story, difficulties, and fears, you receive both empathy and concrete strategies. Don't hesitate to schedule sessions with a professional or join a group. This safe environment offers opportunities for co-regulation, experiencing comfort from others while you strengthen your self-regulation. Over time, by persistently applying these 3 steps, you will progress from anxious attachment to a secure attachment style. Moments of silence in relationships will no longer feel catastrophic, but rather opportunities to practice self-soothing. You'll learn to express needs directly without resorting to shouting or jealousy. You'll build trust in your own capacity for calm and simultaneously share that calm with others. In summary, the journey from anxiety-security is a process of identification, practice, continuity. Try this now. Whenever you feel panic rising, pause for 5 seconds, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, where is this emotion coming from? Do I need someone here to comfort me? Just this small question can help you detach from the emotional storm, find your calm, and choose your next step wisely. Each small action, when done consistently, fortifies your inner shield, opening the door to true, lasting security and happiness in attachment. We've now traced the journey from the roots of anxious attachment to the path of healing through identification, self-regulation practice, and embracing support. Remember, change doesn't happen overnight, but every small step, a moment of mindful awareness, a deep breath, an honest conversation builds toward a secure attachment style. Revisit this video whenever you need a reminder and share your experiences in the comments so we can learn and grow together. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next installment where we'll dive into even more concrete tools to strengthen your inner security